This episode is presented by Invest Puerto Rico. If you believe your business can go anywhere, Puerto Rico is the place.
Hello and welcome back to Equity, TechCrunch's flagship podcast about the business of startups. This is our Monday show where we take a look at the weekend and get you ready for the week ahead. Today is June 10th, 2024, and I'm Becca Skutak, a senior reporter at TechCrunch. On today's show, we have what to expect from Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference today, a new valuation for Indian edtech Byju's, a new fund betting on Italian startups, and a quick note for Pitch Deck Teardown fans. Hai is on vacation this week, so we'll have a shorter show today and get back to our regular scheduled programming when he returns. Let's get started. The first big story we're looking at today is Apple's annual Worldwide Developer Conference, which kicks off later today at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. While last year's WWDC event introduced us to the Vision Pro headset, this year we don't expect any new hardware announcements as the event will largely be focused on the company's generative AI plans. According to TechCrunch's Brian Heater, we should expect a big Siri refresh, Apple Mail to get an injection of Apple's LLM known as Ajax to offer email reply suggestions, and even a new look and new features for Apple Photos. CEO Tim Cook promised last month that the company would, quote, break new ground on generative AI, adding, also in quotes, we believe it will unlock transformative opportunities for our users. Brian Heater expects a lot of focus on iOS. There were early reports that suggested Apple was meeting with Google about a potential Gemini integration for iOS, while conflicting reports say that they've been meeting with OpenAI. It would be interesting if Google were to land the deal. If it did, its LLM Gemini would play a key role in two operating systems that account for a combined 96% of the global mobile operating system market. Apple has gotten a lot of strife from the industry that it may be behind its peers when it comes to generative AI, so we'll see what gets announced today and how people are feeling after the show. If you want more, Brian Heater and the rest of the team has lots of pre-show coverage you can comb through, and there will be more to come as the day goes on. And the second story we're looking at today involves Byju's, the Indian edtech giant that used to be worth a whopping $22 billion. TechCrunch's Manish Singh reports that BlackRock estimates that their stake in the company is now worth nothing, according to a disclosure in a recent SEC filing. That news probably won't come as a huge surprise to regular listeners of the show because if you remember, last October, BlackRock cut the valuation of Byju's to just about $1 billion. Separately, HSBC also estimates that the value of Prosus's 10% stake in the Indian startup to have diminished so severely its analysts have not bothered to attribute any value to it at all. Whew! It has been a rough year for Byju's, which struggled to meet its financial reporting deadlines last year and fell short of its revenue projections by more than 50%. Investors don't tend to like those kind of metrics. In the same year, the company faced governance issues, its auditor and 3 board members quit, and its $1 billion fundraise was derailed. Byju's did manage to raise at least $200 million at a post-money valuation of $250 million this year, but that investment is being legally disputed by some of its largest investors. Byju's used to be one of the highest valued startups in India, gaining ground amid a rise in interest in edtech thanks to the pandemic, but it doesn't look like they are still able to ride those macro headwinds. This markdown makes Byju's one of the most, in quotes, spectacular startup slides in recent memory.
What's next in tech? That's not the right question. It's where? Puerto Rico, where an entrepreneurial ecosystem pulses with connectivity, capability, and possibility, where the most competitive tax incentives in the U.S. fast-track success, and hard work is rewarded with sunsets and turquoise waters. If you believe your business can go anywhere, Puerto Rico is the place. investpr.org/TechCrunch.
And to close out today's show, we have a look at a new fund in Italy, courtesy of this morning's TC newsletter. Our own Anaheim reports that a newly launched fund called Italian Founders Fund has raised 50 million euros to invest in 25 companies in the Italian startup ecosystem. The firm will be sector agnostic and hopes to work with both global VCs and local accelerators to back more Italian founders with, quote, global ambitions. Italian Founders Fund has backed 4 companies this far, with a 5th deal in the works. They've already backed a customer research startup and an HR tech startup as well. The fund is a, quote, step up from the angel investing the Italian Founders Fund team was previously engaged in. And founding partner Lorenzo Franzi said that, in quote, Italian Founders Fund is addressing the challenge for early stage founders in Italy to find a high conviction lead investor at the pre-seed and seed stages. Now, while that quote implies there are not other funds in Italy, which there definitely are, including Exor Ventures, Primo Ventures, and United Ventures, among others, I will say, as someone who sits over here in the US, you definitely do not hear about the Italian startup market as much as you do other ecosystems in Europe. So if this fund is the first, it's the third, it's the fifth, if it's going to help give a boost to that market, I don't think it really matters, and I think that is going to be a net positive overall. And that's it for today, but Equity will be back on Wednesday. Marianne Azevedo has an interesting conversation coming up with NEA venture partner Vanessa Larco, so definitely stay tuned. If you want more from us between now and then, follow us on X and Threads at EquityPod. Thank you for listening, and you can always find more stories from TechCrunch on TechCrunch.com.
Equity is produced by Teresa Loconsolo with editing by Kel. Bryce Durbin is our illustrator, and we'd like to give a big thanks to our audience development team and Henry Picavet, who manages TechCrunch audio products. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.